Recently, I was at a conference and I got a chance to observe a speaker. Now, if I'm being vague, it's because I'm being intentionally vague. The speaker's topic was on communication and a much needed topic. And the speaker ran an activity with the audience that was beneficial in us understanding communication. Here's the catch. I didn't know who this speaker was, and neither did the audience. And not once did this speaker talk about their experience or expertise. I had no idea why this speaker was qualified to teach us on this communication element. I didn't know if they had some sort of education or training or experience or anything that had to do with anything related to the topic. Moreover, in their bio, there was also nothing that stated their credibility as to why they got to teach on this subject. Don't get me wrong, this speaker was dynamic, they were entertaining, they were energizing, but they didn't really talk about what gave them the credibility to speak on communication. Here's the point. An audience needs to know why you're the person to speak about this topic. And let me clarify. I think the pendulum has swung very, very, very quickly to the other direction. It used to be that you only had credibility if you had initials after your name. You only had credibility if you were a college graduate or if you had your master's or you had your PhD. That was the only way that anyone would listen to you and your experience and expertise. Now, as the pendulum swung, we got to hear more voices, and that's a really, really good thing. Everyone deserves a chance to share their stories and to be heard. However, not everyone has the qualifications to teach others on a particular subject, especially when you're hiring professional speakers and leaders to literally teach and lead others on a particular subject. You gotta have some sort of credibility to your background. Not only do you have to have that, but you also have to show that. You have to say, why is it that you are qualified for being on stage? But it's a delicate balance, right? You don't want it to be just the you show. You don't want just the spotlight to be on you, and you don't want to spend 10, 15 minutes going through your resume. That's not what I'm saying. But you do need to let the audience know why you have this experience and expertise. So here's 3 ways to establish your credibility in a speech. Number 1 is have a credibility slide. Now, this isn't like a resume slide. You're not listing every single accomplishment that you've ever had ever in that field. You're simply showcasing the highlights. And here's what I do. I have my credibility slide and I reference it, but I use it as an illustration. My speaking topics are on confidence, communication, and storytelling. And so I will showcase this slide to let the audience see my expertise. But I will also comment on the fact that sometimes people see this slide and they see this image of me and they automatically assume that I was born with some sort of confidence gene, some sort of DNA advanced confidence that nobody else has. And when we see someone on stage or on social media, we think that that's the case. And so I teach them that yes, this is me, and yes, I am very proud of my accomplishments, but I didn't get to where I was in an easy or natural way. So notice, I am showcasing my experience and my expertise, but I'm using it as an illustration to a main point. This is a great way to showcase your experience without making it just about you. The second strategy is to weave stories throughout your talk. In each of your main arguments, you want to tell a story as to how you learned that skill, or what it was like when you didn't use that skill, or how it is that you refined that skill. This is a lot different than name dropping or saying, well, one time I was standing right next to The Rock and he complimented my shirt and my muscles. That's not quite it, right? You're talking specifically about how it is that you are applying the material that you are teaching them. Finally, if you don't feel like there's a space for a credibility slide or a story, then you can simply weave it into your introduction. Now you got to make sure that that introduction is read before you speak so that your audience knows that you are indeed qualified to speak on this topic. I'll say one final thing about this. We've all heard about the imposter syndrome, right? The imposter syndrome is this concept of, I'm not supposed to be here, or maybe I'm not the one who's qualified to speak on this. And most of the time, imposter syndrome is a myth. Being a leader means that you are going ahead of everyone else. And when you're going ahead of everyone else, you're going to see the obstacles before everyone else. And you're going to feel that fear and apprehension before everyone else. So it's natural to feel like you're not the one who's supposed to lead. And I would also say that maybe sometimes we need to take a pause and really consider, am I the person who has not just the experience, but the expertise to be able to teach others in this particular lesson? While imposter syndrome is something that we get to navigate through, we also get to tell others as well as ourselves what credibility we have to speak on the topic that we're speaking about. I'd love to hear from you. What does credibility mean to you? How do you evaluate a speaker's credibility? Drop those in the comments, and as always, make sure that you come off mute and speak up your story.